You guys are in for a real treat in today's video. I am doing two collaboration videos, one with Debbie Beard releasing her 5 new paints along with my membership group, and we are doing a spring into DIY. So I am combining those two and you will find 5 thrift flips in today's video. For project 1, I found this at the Goodwill bins, you guys, and I had to rescue it. I love little footstools like this, but the top, it was so stinking cute. I also rescued this fabric and I had it available on a whatnot sale and nobody grabbed it. So we are taking plaster, which is the first new cottage color, and we are going to paint the base plaster. But I heard from many of my viewers to save this top. So I went through a lot of trouble removing the top from this, and I'm gonna use that in another thrift flip. Now this is what I was left with, and normally when I take apart tops, it normally is all confined. And honestly, you guys, I think I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna recover this a little different. I didn't have enough time prior to releasing this video, but I felt like the top was a little bit wonky, and because that other fabric was very thick, it covered and it fit the base a lot differently than my thinner fabric. So I put it together like this, but I think what I'm gonna do is go back, remove the fabric, add more stuffing underneath there to really plump it up and then recover it again. It won't take much effort, but other than removing all the staples again. But I wanted to put this together just so you guys got an idea of what this looked like. So I actually had to use 3 coats of plaster on here, and it is better to use thinner coats than thicker coats. This is a self-leveling paint and you don't want it too thick, especially when the footstool is just sitting there. So I did 3 coats, and then I went back in and I used sandpaper and I distressed it up a bit. I really love that distressed look. Because I did expose some of the original wood, I decided to give it a little bit more added protection with DIY's Big Top. This is not necessary because the cottage colors do have a top coat built in. Like I said, I wanted to just add a little bit more protection. For project 2, another item that I rescued from the Goodwill bins, you guys. Anytime I'm there, I am looking at rescuing items that have really good bones. This definitely caught my eye, and we are grabbing the second new color, Garden Sage. You guys, this is a gorgeous green, and it's perfect for spring. The first thing I do is I take a piece of sandpaper and I want to rough sand down the entire piece, really get rid of that little bit of glossy coat that's on there. And again, I did 3 coats of the paint. And again, nice even coats. I let them dry very thoroughly in between, and I just am loving this color. I wanted to add a bit of decoupage paper all these items are going to go into either my booth for my spring flip, or I am doing a show in May. So Paintable Roses from Roycycled. This is a beautiful paper and you can paint it or just leave it as is. So I am grabbing my decoupage medium liquid patina, and this is definitely my go-to, and I am applying what I like to call a starter strip. So I lay down a nice even coat of liquid patina. I missed my decoupage paper and then I smooth it out. And you guys, this gives you way better control of your decoupage paper and it alleviates so many of your wrinkles. And I say this in all my videos, definitely do this versus applying the liquid patina and then just trying to lay down your paper. You'll get so few wrinkles by doing it this way. And normally, you guys, I do add white underneath, but I really wanted that green to kind of pop through that background, and I love how this turned out. Next, I just take a piece of sandpaper, I get rid of the excess decoupage paper, and then I distress the heck out of this. Again, I want it to look really like old, and I like that distress, wood peeking through. And the last step I did is I added a bit of Big Top just to give it that added protection like I mentioned earlier, because I'm distressing it and exposing some of the original wood. For project 3, I grabbed 3 of these jars at 3 different Goodwills. Anytime I'm out and about and I see a Hobnail jar, I'm grabbing it. Now, typically I paint these up with the clay-based paint, but we are going to use the color number 3, Honey, you guys. And what a beautiful color this is. It's so warm and perfect for spring. Now, what I am going to do is paint, do actually 3 coats on here as well. The one pro tip I can offer after doing this project is when the cottage colors came out a while ago, Jamie Ray Vintage did say, if you are painting on glass, you'll want to start with a coat of DIY's clay-based paint. And I would definitely recommend that. So what happened in this project is, I don't know if the paint reactivated by the 3rd coat, but it created this beautiful crackle goodness. And some of you may not want that, but I embraced it. And I'm going to show you now how I embraced it. So as you can see, there's that beautiful crackle goodness happening. And I am going to use clear wax and the DIY's dark wax. So I initially go in and I apply 1 even coat of the clear wax, and that gives me better control of the colored wax. And then I'm going to go in and apply the dark wax. Now that I have it in all the nooks and crannies, I'm taking a piece of paper towel and wiping away the excess. And now you can see all that crackle goodness really come out along with those hobnails. I love this look, and I love how the dark wax really makes it look old and distressed. To finish the project off, I just grabbed a piece of drop cloth that I had cut up, and I'm just going to cut strips and make almost like a ribbon and tie that around. I could have stamped this as well and had like a saying hanging off of it, but I just really loved how it added to that whole vintage vibe of the little containers. Staging these 3 containers in a vignette is going to be stunning, and honey is the perfect spring DIY color. I think it's going to look great with that footstool, and actually all the projects I finish in today's video, they're going to go great together in a vignette. For project 4, when I was shopping at Goodwill, I found this beauty, and let me tell you, it was on the top shelf. I'm like, it is in perfect condition, until I saw the top and I was like, ew. But we are going to completely transform the look and feel of this basket with the color Azure, and this is color number 4 of this release. And you guys, I love turquoise, and this is one of my favorites. The first thing I did is I grabbed this scraper, and this has been a go-to of mine for so many projects, and popped these babies right off. Unfortunately, I took a piece of sandpaper and I tried to sand the rest of this off, and I could not for the life of me. I don't know what type of paint this woman used. I'm assuming it was a woman that did it, but I sanded down as far as I could to make sure it was nice and smooth, and I grabbed the paint and I just started applying it. And again, I did 3 even coats of the color Azure, and you guys, this color, is it not gorgeous? I can just think of all the possibilities, and I was even contemplating adding a bit of dark wax to this, but I came up with a different idea. I've been trying to use up all my scrap IOD transfers, and what I love about the transfers is that you can combine different transfers together to create a completely unique feel, and the transfers work beautifully with all of Debbie's DIY clay-based paints and now the cottage colors. So I'm starting with this beautiful font, and I'm cutting that out. I'm going to apply just the font as the base. And if you guys haven't used a transfer before, so easy. Just lay it down, use that transfer stick, and just start rubbing on one side and then work your way over. It is so easy. The other thing I love about the transfers is that you can layer your transfers. So you can stack them on top of each other and really blend them beautifully. Once I had the font down, I then grabbed this beautiful botanical and I just started to layer. So I laid it right on top because I wanted to have it kind of come down. And then I just chunked up a bunch of other pieces and just laid it all over the top. And you guys, this turned out so good. I really want to keep this for myself. It might be hanging out in my studio for a little bit. I know that I was making it for my vignette, but we'll see. Anytime you apply a transfer, you do want to add a bit of protection. I'm using DIY's Big Top and I'm sealing the entire piece. I did apply 2 coats of Big Top to the top of this, and that finishes this project. For project 5, I did not thrift this. I actually was sent this beautiful frame from Cindy and Chris over at CNC DIY Factory. They handcraft all of these beautiful wood pieces, and this is called the maker's frame. So it is the largest frame that they offer, and I decided I was going to incorporate it into my spring DIYs. So we are going to start with a veranda, and this is the 5th and final color of the new release of the cottage colors, and it is a beautiful pink, you guys. Perfect for a spring DIY. So what I decided to do was my initial vision, this definitely changed. I was going to paint the frame that beautiful pink, and then I was going to use the burlap roses from Upcycled on the inside, and I was going to create this beautiful DIY project. And things definitely changed, as you're gonna see. The first thing I did was I used plaster, and I painted the base plaster because I really wanted that decoupage paper to pop off that wood. And then I started painting the frame, and I thought initially when I held up this paint to burlap roses, I thought it was a perfect match. Once I painted the frame and I set that aside, I started to apply the burlap roses decoupage paper to the base. And if you guys have been following me for a bit, you know I like to start with a starter strip. I lay down a nice even coat of liquid patina, which is my go-to decoupage medium. I mist the paper because it activates the fibers in the paper, and then I smooth it out. And it gives me more control over larger pieces of decoupage paper, and it alleviates so many of the wrinkles. So I start with the starter strip, and then I work my way down. While that's drying, I decided to take a piece of sandpaper and scuff up a bit of the edges of the wood. I am using another type of liquid patina called Dark and Decrepit, and I am just going to scrape off a bit from the top. I'm going to add a bit of water to it. I want to make this more of like a wash, and so I just want to give it a bit of distressed appearance to the veranda and make it look old and worn. And I want a bit of that dark and decrepit liquid patina to go into the areas that I scuff sanded. And I love how this is looking. And then I sand away the excess paper. And then that is when I discovered I did not like the look of that frame. So I decided to grab garden sage, and I was gonna just kind of do a wash over the veranda. And I'm liking it, but now it reminds me of a watermelon. And I decided it wasn't the look I was going for. So what I'm trying to explain to you guys, sometimes your projects take in a completely pivot. It goes, a completely right turn, and that's exactly what happened. So then I grab Sweet Pickins Crackle Finish, and I'm just going to add a bit of the crackle finish here and there all over the piece. Now this does take 2 hours to dry, so I apply it and I set it aside. After the 2 hours, I come back with plaster. And the key here is anytime you're using the crackle finish, you don't want to overwork your area. So I just quickly apply it, not really smoothing it out a lot. I'm just going to apply one even coat over the entire piece, and it immediately starts working, you guys. So you're gonna see a bit of that green, that garden sage coming through, some of the veranda, and you're going to get a really old looking vintage frame. I set that aside and I grab a piece that was from one of my maker's boxes, and I had a vision for that box, and Cindy from CNC DIY Factory made this piece for me as well. So what I decided to do was take a bit of the clear DIY wax and a bit of the dark DIY wax and just add that to the very edge. Then I'm using Titebond and I am going to put this directly in the center of this piece. Now that that's dry, the last thing I do is I pull the piece together. I add a bit of Titebond to the entire inside of the frame, place that back piece inside the frame, and this DIY is finished. Now, if you guys haven't done so yet and you are loving this video, go ahead, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what your favorite flip was. And if you are loving my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, there are 2 playlists to be completely inspired today. So head on over to both of the playlists and you guys are gonna find a ton of great creators out there. Lastly, all the products that I've used in today's video, you can find on my website at www.sonnetsgardenblooms.com, and we will see you in the next one, which is next Monday at 5 p.m.